Hey there, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about gifting and the 5 love languages. Some of you have probably heard of these, others maybe not so much. And I'm going to be doing like a short little snippet of what each of these mean today, and then I'll actually go in more into depth in some future videos on each one of these love languages and what each of those mean. So first, let's talk about love language. Love language in general is just the way that we like to be loved. Each person has their own preferences on how they prefer to be loved. And chances are you are a combination of multiple of these. I've yet to meet someone who is like exclusively, this is the only way that I like to be loved. But we tend to lean more towards a particular one or two. So the 5 love languages are acts of service, physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, and receiving gifts. So those are your 5. So just kind of looking at what each of these mean. Acts of service is, having someone do things for you. Physical touch is a little more self-explanatory. You prefer, physical touch to show to be loved. Words of affirmation are being able to build someone up with the words that they want to hear, letting them know that they are loved using your words. Quality time is spending time together. And receiving gifts, also a little self-explanatory, receiving things. Now, I do want to say that there's a lot of negative energy around a couple of these, in particular, receiving gifts and physical touch. A lot of people tend to assume that men, as a whole, only like physical touch, and that women tend to like receiving gifts. So receiving gifts in general oftentimes gets a bad reputation because it makes you seem extremely materialistic. But receiving gifts doesn't necessarily have to mean that you buy that person something every single day. Okay? Receiving gifts are things like, someone picking up a beautiful rock at the park, or going outside and clipping some flowers from the flower bed and putting them in a vase in the morning. That is also included in receiving gifts. You are thoughtfully giving a thing to this other person in the form of a gift. Okay? And then physical touch, it doesn't have to mean sex. Okay? Physical touch can be something as simple as holding hands or a kiss on the forehead. It can be, anything of, hugs, when you're speaking to that person and letting them know that you love them, a gentle caress on the arm. It does not have to mean what most people immediately go to. And then just to kind of go into some of the other ones, acts of service, it's as simple as, hey, I saw you, vacuuming the house, and so I went ahead and put away the dishes. I know that you started the laundry before you left to go run errands, so I'm going to make sure that load of laundry gets taken from the washer and put in the dryer. Those are acts of service, doing things for someone else who, has likely already involved in that. Now, I want to be clear here, though, and say that pulling your weight around the house is not an act of service. That's just simply being an adult. But there is, something of like, hey, I'm going to, I've made myself a list of the things that I need to do today. And that person, that other individual, making a point of doing something like that for me. Then we've got words of affirmation. This is, on paper, it's the most simple, right? Like, it's not hard to talk to people in terms of like the actual act of, in general, not for everyone, but in general, like most people can say, hey, I love you. Like, that's not that difficult. What makes this difficult, though, is that oftentimes we feel like we're going to say the wrong thing or we're not going to say the right thing. For example, my main love language is words of affirmation. For my husband, who is not really a wordy kind of guy, he struggles with this, and it's something that we've worked on over the years. But not everyone is going to be fluent in your love language, but that doesn't mean that they don't love you in their own way. So again, you kind of have to figure things out. But words of affirmation, writing a little love note that says, hey, I see you, I love you, you're doing great. Sticking it on their computer so that when they open it up to do some work, it's there. That is a word. Those are words of affirmation. Asking that person, when they went, to a craft show. I'm just giving a personal example. When they come back, saying, hey, how did it go? Tell me about it. I want to know, like, was anything, exciting, or was there anything that, made you feel bad? Like, allowing that person to give words back, that's part of the words of affirmation. And then last, of course, is quality time. And this is simply spending time together. And I want to make it clear that every person's definition of quality time is different. Some people are perfectly content sitting in a room together, doing their own things separately, but just being in that same space. Other people need undivided attention. So this is something, that, when I do my quality time video, that I will be able to kind of help you understand, like, maybe what that other person is seeking here. Whether or not they prefer, here, like, some things to look out for, and whether or not they prefer to just be in the same space, or if they actually want your undivided attention. So really, it just depends. But the gist of the love languages, though, when it comes to gift giving, is understanding what that other person's love language is and tailoring your gift that you want to give to their love language. It's really important for us to understand that just because we think that it's a good gift and it'll be well received doesn't necessarily mean that it will. So, for example, if I prefer words of affirmation and I don't really care to receive gifts, someone picking up, like, yeah, that might be a really nice watch, or that might be a really cute pair of earrings, but if you haven't told me that I'm doing great, that I'm a good mom, that, I'm well loved, then it's not going to hit the same, right? Or if your love language is physical touch, but, all you do is go around and say, the other person's going around saying, I love you, you're the best, but you never take the time to, hold my hand in public or give me a kiss on the cheek, I'm not going to feel that. So gift giving should be kind of the same thought process behind how we choose to love each other, right? So as I go through these videos over the next few weeks and talk about each one of these in depth, I'm going to give you some ideas and things that you can try. And some things to look for to try to better understand. And of course, as always, I always encourage you to keep an open line of communication with anyone that is in your life, relationship, whether that be romantic or platonic, whatever it ends up being. It's so important for us to talk to one another, not through text message, not through phone, actually in person. Now, obviously, not every relationship can be done that way, but if it can be, then it's necessary. We cannot rely on technology to maintain our relationships. It's surface level and it's not deep and meaningful. So I always encourage you to take the time to reach out to that person. Phone calls are better than text messages. At least phone calls, you're hearing the person's voice, and, making sure that you're taking the time to ask that person, hey, what are the things that you care about? It sounds weird to ask your best friend, hey, what's your love language? So just say, listen to the things that they say, listen to how they react to things, listen to stories that they tell you about, other things that's happened to them or things they've received from, other friends and family that they have. So like I said, keep a lookout on the channel. I'll be going over these over the next little while. And as always, if you have any questions or would like for me to help you find that perfect gift for someone, just give me a shout. All right, thanks, guys.